podcast that discusses issues impacting America, whether globally or domestically. And there's a lot to talk about. This one's going to ducktail off what we did last week when we talked about immigration. But before we get started, there was a TikTok video or a Twitter video that went viral. Somebody went, or like a family or an individual went to a Five Guys restaurant, which is a hamburger place, much like a McDonald's. Went to a Five Guys restaurant and they spent about $24 or so on a hamburger, fries, and a drink. And the internet blew up about this and how things could be so costly. And I was watching and listening to some of the debate, and very few people mentioned one thing is the owners of these companies. And I've talked to somebody who owns a steakhouse, and I asked them, what is your biggest expenditure? And they said labor, then you got rent, you got utilities, all three of them, and insurance. All four of those have skyrocketed in the last number of years. Now, I used to work at a fast food restaurant, Chick-fil-A. After my business cratered, got to do something to make money. This is all during COVID, and they do a lot of chicken. So people were saying the difference between a sit-down dinner and a fast food restaurant, these fast foods, their biggest commodity is usually meat or chicken.
Or you could be like the Kellogg CEO and say, hey, you know what? A bowl of cereal is good enough for you.
Yeah, that's...
You remember that?
That's tone deaf on his part.
Yeah, that's bad timing, you would think.
Because he needs to... someone needs to slap him. But, I mean, for most of these companies...
But it's like you grinding at Chick-fil-A all day. And I'm like, hey, John. And I used to do it every Wednesday, too. And I hated doing it every single day. But I'm like, do you want to get you some Chick-fil-A? And you're just like, F you.
But the point is, a lot of these businesses are facing these rising costs. This is all before. Now, what Five Guys has, they serve a lot of meat, the hamburgers. What people don't realize is the cattle or the beef prices have skyrocketed because there's less cattle than any time since 1951. Mm-hmm. So then you got, when I worked at Chick-fil-A, chicken prices went up because they had, I think bird flu or something decimated some of the chicken crop. Egg prices went up. All these things factor in, and they can only eat the cost so much.
And it kind of goes into, Five Guys could give you a very relatively low price burger.
Correct.
They could, but then the size of the burger, I would most definitely agree it would definitely get smaller.
It would.
Where they're giving you the same size burger. They haven't changed the size of the burger. They haven't even changed the taste or the flavor. You want to know something? I'll pay $22 for some burgers right now.
But even still, look what's going on in California. Starting April 1st, all fast food restaurants are going to go to $20 minimum wage, except Panera Bread, because that seemed to have got a little break because the owner of Panera Bread
knows Gavin Newsom.
Happens to be a high school friend of Gavin Newsom and contributed over $100,000 to Gavin Newsom's gubernatorial campaign.
Why are people ignoring that? Why do people see that and they know what's going? They know this guy's got the rub, and they're letting it go anyway. Why? Why are people? Why are even Californians tolerant? Why are the business owners tolerant? Why don't they just say, "Hey, Newsom, F you, I'm out of here"?
A lot of businesses are doing that, and the problem with California is the progressive, that far left liberal wing has sway.
So if McDonald's starts baking their buns in McDonald's, they could probably fit into that loophole, couldn't they?
They could conceivably get that
because
loophole.
you have to have a bakery on premises.
You would have to have some kind of a bakery on premise. I think.
So Dunkin' Donuts they're good.
I wonder if Subway, because Subway bakes, I think there must be pre-made and they just heat them up there. I don't know if that qualifies.
Man, we can have a whole show in front trying to figure out what this law pertains to when it comes to California.
But here's the point, though. It's $20 for fast food workers, not in the sit-down dinners. Mm-hmm. Sit-down diners. Yeah. They don't. They stay at the same rate of $16 an hour.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen with those workers moving over? They're going to say, well, I'll just go work at a fast food restaurant and get $20 an hour.
Well, no, because the fast food industry is going to start minimizing its customer base. I've seen a McDonald's, one literally right up the street. Two people are running the entire McDonald's, okay? were they slammed? Were they kind of like in kind of like a rush mode? Absolutely. But if McDonald's sees that, they're just going to be like, all right, guess what? Hey, managers, cut your staff down to 2 to 3 people.
Well, look at the grocery.
But
look at grocery stores. If you go into like, okay, I live out here, and for people across the country, I live here in Tampa. We have Publix, which is like a Kroger's or anything else. Yeah. A lot of the Publixes have now self-checkout. You go to a Walmart, there's self-checkout. You go to Target, self-checkout. Because labor cost is so expensive, and it keeps going up and up and up. Now, the president...
You know what? I want to not necessarily agree or disagree with this, but from my point of view or my perspective, you can get through Walmart a lot faster than waiting on a cashier to ring your stuff up. So people might look at it, the negative connotation of, why do I got to ring up my own stuff? I'm not a cashier, blah 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 blah. But on the high end, I can grab all the Walmart stuff I want. I don't have to wait for a register. I hit self-checkout. I scan it a couple times. If I have an issue, I raise my hand, and away I go.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right. You know, that's one issue.
We are definitely living in a society now where there's less engagement and less human interaction. So you're kind of maybe looking at getting those introverted people to buy your stuff, but they get to handle it themselves where they're not having to engage.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's one aspect, but also from a business standpoint, look what they're facing. They're facing a lot of cost. Okay, take Letitia James. If you talk about Five Guys and hamburgers that they sell, Letitia James is going after the largest meat packing company in the world. Mm-hmm. So she says because of climate change, of their emissions they're producing, their carbon footprint. So if they're going to be going after them and they got to pay legal fees, that's going to transcend into everybody else. So this is what businesses face. I mean, look at you guys. You guys are starting a business. Look at all the licenses you had to go through, and you don't get a license in one day.
And still waiting on a few more.
But you got to go to the county. You got to do this inspection, and there's a reason for that. But when you go to the government, you just don't go, okay, we got our inspection, go down, pay your fee, and you get your license.
I'll tell you one thing that they don't have. They don't have self-checkout at a gun store. I know that.
No, you can't do that. But even with the self-checkout, you have electronic filing that you can do at the store to speed up the process.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things, and that's one of the things President Biden is going to be talking about tonight.
Oh, that's right. When is that?
That's tonight at 9 Eastern time.
Why so late?
Because it's got to be 6 o'clock West Coast time. But even then, he's going to talk about shrinkflation, which is the packages are getting smaller, but they still stay the same price. But what he hasn't spoken about, a lot of this inflation is directly resulted to the American Rescue Plan, which many economists, including a couple of economists, one was Larry Summers, who was a Treasury Secretary for Bill Clinton, and he was also senior economic advisor to Barack Obama, said, you're spending too much money. The Inflation Reduction Act was more of a focus on green technology than actually reducing inflation. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that are expensive, and the government can't stop spending. That contributes to, they just print more money. That's contributing to inflation.
But is it going to change with a different president, though? Or are we still going to be spending?
We're going to face some problems because a lot of this carries over until the new president's policies take hold.
The previous president added to the deficit as this president's adding to the deficit, but is it just maybe, is it now just, well, this president only added this much to the deficit, where this president's adding that much?
That's where we're both. Both parties, Republicans, even Donald Trump, added trillions to the debt.
Yeah.
And the big reason is Washington can't stop spending on all their programs, and this is where I disagree with Republicans. They want to cut on domestic, but they don't want to touch military or the Department of Defense. And both of us came from the Department of Defense. Both of us served in the Marines. You did 10, I did 30. And there's waste, there's abuse, and there's also egregious spending. The Army just canceled a $2 billion long-range reconnaissance helicopter.
Okay.
Spent $2 billion, doesn't work. move on.
You see the trash weapons that they're trying to push on us?
Yeah,
now,
but
too?
I mean, over the last 30 years, the Department of Defense wasted $100 billion plus
Yeah.
on weapon systems. So you got to get reform, and then I don't care what anybody says, you have to major reform to the entitlement programs. This is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They're going broke, and in about 10 years, there's going to be no money, so you're going to either have to raise taxes or cut substantial benefits.
I don't find an issue with our majority of our money being put onto the defense budget, because there's a lot of people that want to take a shot at America.
They do.
They just don't. They don't like the way we're running our ship, even though we're kind of like we're the big swinging D of the world. They don't like it, so we should be putting a lot of money into our defense budget just so that they know, hey, back off.
We need a strong defense. I'm not advocating a weakening American defense, because people need to realize the United States has a global footprint, but also because of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, we came to the realization that America was going to be the arbitrator and protection to make sure we have a liberal, not liberal in the political sense, but we kind of eliminated the reasons to go to war. It was trade, aggression, and things like that. So we liberalized the trading, we liberalized the financial system, we made the dollar the standard currency, and it was America that kept the peace in a lot of these regional areas that could, like India, Pakistan, a lot of these countries in Central Asia that could, China, Taiwan. If it wasn't for the United States, it would be far different,
Yeah.
and it would cost our economy. But the problem is how we spend our money. We could have better weapons, more weapons, and we could eliminate going into a conflict. And right now, like, there's 4 branches of the armed services: Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And everybody seems to be on a different logistics system. Everybody's on a different financial system. There's no one continuity among the services. So I'm just saying that you can't just look at one and not the other. And the key to getting our debt down that is threatening U.S. national security, that the president almost guarantee is not going to talk about, is we got to get the economy moving. We got to get more people working than right now.
What's her name? John St. Pierre? Corinne.
Oh, Corinne Johnson.
Yeah, whatever. But she's like, this is the best, administration ever. We've done so much for America in the past 3 years than any other president, blah, 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 blah. How is she being able to spew this garbage, and why are people accepting it?
I think the reason she's, Corinne Jean-Pierre, I think the reason she's spewing that is maybe at her level, everybody's doing really well, because this economy, and this is done by Kim Strassel of the Wall Street Journal, wrote this in January, and then you had Joel Kotkin from New Geography, who tends to be liberal, who said the same thing, that this is a class election. You have, if you make $150,000 or more, and you belong to government, the tech industry, the financial or media affiliates, you're doing really well. This economy is benefiting you very well.
Is Trump talking about dropping corporate taxes, that is? He's talking about dropping corporate taxes. Well, there's something called Agenda 47, but he was talking about taking the 21% corporate tax and dropping it down to 15%.
I would have to see on that, but what he also saying is making the 2017 tax cuts permanent, because in December...
You just have to put that in the law, right?
Yes, to put that, because all the tax cuts he's done expire in December 2025. So January 1st, 2026, everybody gets a tax increase except the wealthy. Because one of the things that they put in the 2017 tax cut is the SALT tax. That all the wealthy can deduct only up to $10,000 in state and local taxes. So if you live in a blue state like California, Illinois, New York, you're only able to deduct $10,000 off your taxes from those state and local taxes.
Okay.
In 2020, at the end of 2025, they all go away. So the wealthy get a tax cut, while everybody else gets a tax increase.
It's okay. It's early where we are in the for 2024, but I mean we're kind of seeing how everything's leaning, especially after Super Tuesday. But how's it looking for the rest of like the playing field, especially when it comes to the Congress and Senate?
Well,
Because like, I mean, we can have, like, I think a couple of years ago with Trump and now with Biden, you can have a Democratic or Republican leader, but if you don't have a House or you don't have a Senate, and even like this, they had the Senate, or they have the Senate, and they had the House, but yet they weren't able to do a lot of progression. So with, even if, like, say Trump does pull this off,
okay.
how's it look for everybody else? Because if he wants to pass a lot of this stuff, he still has to go through Congress. He still has to go through Senate.
First of all, it's the House. The Republicans only control the House, I think, by 4 votes.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
Okay, but going into this year, this presidential election, we'll have to see. And there's a talk that some of the Democrats may be able to pull it off, especially like in California and New York.
Of course, but that,
okay. And in the Senate, this is probably the worst year for Democrats.
Okay.
Because a lot of senators who are up for re-election, there's a senator in their Senate race in Ohio that went Republican by 4 points.
True. You also have Manchin, you have Sinema.
Well, Sinema dropped out.
Yeah.
She decided not to run, so that comes to get an open seat.
You have Manchin.
Manchin decided not to run.
McCarthy, but he's House.
You got John Tester in Montana. That was of Trump state.
Okay.
You've got Ohio, went to Trump. You've got West Virginia. You got there's more Democrats going up for re-election in states that were won by Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of these senators, I was just reading an article today, some of these senators are facing a problem, and the crux of the topic I wanted to discuss before all this other stuff came up was immigration. Now they're going to have to discuss that, because in Virginia, even though you have like Jen Psaki, Rachel Maddow, and one other person kind of ridiculed Virginia worried about immigration, but that's a big issue for a lot of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But like John Tester, he's got to have to answer to that, because you've been in the Senate and you didn't do anything with regard to immigration.
Yeah.
You allowed Joe Biden to get away with eliminating all the executive orders that Donald Trump did to secure the border.
And there would be some kind of saving grace, definitely for Democrats. Like, they could have definitely. Now it's too late, or it's getting too late. It's close.
They're getting to a point that
getting close to being too late. But there was a moment where even they could have kind of stepped in and been like, okay, hey, Joe, maybe we want to do this, and kind of not necessarily fix the problem, but kind of course correct, so that when it does come to the polls, immigration is not the number one topic. Because
you got a good point.
Because what are New Yorkers going to think in November when they're going to vote, and they're going to have to walk past a ton of illegal immigrants? Same thing in California, same thing in Chicago. So a lot of these blue cities can definitely turn red just by the immigration situation.
Well, it's also the working class vote and the non-white working class vote, meaning your ethnic minorities, blacks, Hispanic, Asians, and like.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden is down considerably with all these groups. Now, he only won some of these states by a very small margin, and it could change. Like, look at what's going on in New York. Kathy Hochul just put the National Guard into the subways. Now, remember, just a couple of years ago, Tom Cotton, a Republican senator from Arkansas, wrote an article and was posted in an editorial in the New York Times, and he was loudly lambasted for it. Yeah. A lot of the editorial editors had to resign or were forced out, and people were saying, oh, this is just going to impact blacks, this is racism. Notice how quiet they are, especially the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to immigration, and this is where the media is, I think they're doing it by design. They're focusing on the bill that was in the Senate, and Senator Langford from Oklahoma, kind of one of the most conservative members in the Senate, they couldn't get that bill passed over into the House. But I read that Senate bill, and then there was H.R. 2, which came out of the House. Now, this girl that was Lacey, I can't even think of her last name now. The 22-year-old nursing student was killed in Georgia.
What's her name?
Lacey, I can't remember. But anyway, she was killed in Georgia. Now, in the Senate bill, she still would have been killed because they didn't do anything to stop sanctuary city policy. This is where cities and states will not work with the federal government, especially ICE.
Yeah.
In the House bill, H.R. 2, that stipulates if cities and states fail to work with ICE or immigration and customs and enforcement, they would lose federal funding. So they put teeth and they would punish cities and states for having sanctuary city policies. Then when it comes to amnesty, they tightened it up a little bit, but they're still very liberal when it comes to amnesty, where H.R. 2 would restrict, you can't just come to America and claim amnesty for being poor. You had to remain in Mexico, and better yet, you had to stay in your own home country.
Maybe you can explain this. It says from Ashes Babbitt on Twitter. What's up, dude? Hey, red states have the highest homicide rate.
I heard that numerous times. I would have to see where you got that information from.
Yeah, kind of sources, buddy. Come on. You gotta stop radical right-wing terrorism.
Say that again.
You gotta stop radical right-wing terrorism.
Well,
again, from Ashes Babbitt. I mean,
okay, I would describe, what does she mean by radical?
Well, I don't think it's Ashley. I think it's Ashes.
Okay, well, I would like to know in what context you talk about right-wing terrorists.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the urban core, even though they said that violent crime is down, but they're not reporting a lot of crime. A lot of the cities like Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia are seeing a rise. People do not feel safe to walk outside the street. Henceforth, Kathy Hochul, the Democratic governor of New York, put the National Guard into the subway system.
What would be considered right-wing terrorism?
So that's why I wanted, if you put it in more context, so I can answer it. What do you describe right-wing terrorists?
Is that a George Strait gathering or something?
I don't know. So that would be it. But I mean, there's a lot of issues that Americans are facing, but immigration is one. But in both bills, the Republican H.R. 2 never got a hearing. Everybody focuses on the Senate version because that was bipartisan, but it really didn't address the issue. What the H.R. 2 did, and I read that bill, they wanted the immigrants, the illegals, to stay in Mexico and let your hearing heard. Or the better one was that you have to stay in your home country, apply for asylum or a visa to come to America. Now, Americans need to streamline that process, but the Senate bill still allowed 5,000 immigrants to come across the border every day. And Jay Johnson, who was the Homeland Security Director for Barack Obama, said 1,000 a day is going to bankrupt the system. What's 5,000? And then who pays for all these programs? California, there's a Democratic Assembly representative. He wants to give zero interest loans to legal immigrants so they get a house.
Zero interest, zero payment. They don't have to make a payment. The only time they have to make a payment is when they sell the house.
Yeah, so
they get a house for free. They don't have to pay for it, and then the only time they do have to pay for it is if they sell the house.
So what about Americans who have to pay 8% interest? Then you give illegal immigrants. And then you've got, like Colorado, there was a hospital had to pay $130 million to cover the medical expenses for illegal immigrants. And that's why you're seeing these cities they're being overwhelmed. There was one immigration group said that we're spending about $145 billion a year on illegal immigrants.
I don't see the benefit of giving away our best products for free.
Yeah, I don't get that. But this is issues that are going to impact the elections at the Senate level, but also at the House level. If a lot of these ethnic groups like African Americans, Asians, and the Latino voters who typically vote Democrat, their numbers have dropped considerably.
So, okay, let's just say hypothetical, okay? Like the South region of the United States, from California, I would say, to Texas, and then like a little bit of Florida. is Hispanic, or we have Cuban, Puerto Rican, stuff like that. What if like the U.S. is like, hey, guess what, Mexico, you're part of us now. Like all of a sudden, Mexico is now the United States. Does that change any demographic or any dynamic to the state that our country's in? Because they're no longer considered illegal immigrants. They are now U.S. citizens. They are now tax-paying citizens. And we gain about, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 5 cities out of that. So
you would have to fix a lot of the problems in Mexico. The problems with Mexico go back centuries.
Well, we gotta get it first, and then we can kind of fix it. It's like we're re-renovating a house.
The only time America was successful in changing a country's economy, or at least a way of doing business, was after World War II. With the Marshall Plan into Europe.
I want you to Mexico is one of the world's largest economy.
That's a fair assessment. They're ranked 10th or.
What are they pumping out? That makes it.
Well, they got a lot of energy down there. Mexico is, if you take Mexico, Mexico's got a lot of energy. They straddle Latin America and.
So why haven't we taken it over yet? I mean, that's what we do.
Well, but I mean,
we take countries. If we need energy, hey guys, move out of the way.
Yeah,
we're
but
taking
we
over.
get one of the America's largest trading partner used to be China. It's now Mexico. So there's a lot of dynamics. America doesn't have a great track record of fixing countries. We did it well to a degree in Europe with the Marshall Plan, but they had democracy, or democratic. They're used to democratic governments. Mm-hmm. Some of these countries we've gone into the past, like Iraq, Afghanistan, recently, and then Vietnam, we didn't do too well.
This one's a little bit closer to home, though. It's like right there.
Yeah.
It's like.
But if you take Mexico, Mexico's problem is far deeper than just us taking it over. I mean, if you think about it, they straddle the Pacific, they straddle the Caribbean, they have the wealthiest country on earth to the north. They have great farmland. They have abundance of natural resources, but they're just horribly managed.
So, user number, lots of numbers, said, realize that the fix is in for the Dems to win, just as Biden won in 2020.
And to that statement, I would agree on that. And this, for the simple reason, is social media. And I follow it just when I go to the gym. Mm-hmm. I sit out in my car before the gym opens. And you look at more and more of the issues are pro-Biden and more balanced. You have the social media companies. You have Joe Biden forcing the social media companies to censor conservative or other thoughts. Joe Biden worked with Amazon to suppress books but then you look at what happened with Google and its AI. They had a program where they targeted groups, and it was always against conservatives.
Okay, I have this weird, not conspiracy theories, it's just a weird theory, because Ray called me up earlier today, said, hey, the House just passed a bill trying to ban TikTok. Okay, and if I were to go into TikTok, I would definitely see more pro-Trump,
I see more, and I'm just going from what I see.
This is what you see on TikTok? So your algorithm, you see what?
I see a little bit more pro Biden than I do see pro Trump.
Okay, on mine I see more pro-Trump than I do Biden.
Now the government's going to have a hard time.
But you also have a political TikTok.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I think the government's going to have a hard time banning TikTok, not because they can't ban it.
I've seen your algorithm. We need to talk about that.
What's that?
I said I've seen your algorithm on TikTok, and we need to talk about that.
Okay. But what is it? Young people are into TikTok. Mm-hmm. So every young person has a TikTok account. So that's going to be a little difficult to ban it because they don't want the backlash.
But he's saying the fix is in. He's saying that it's another slam dunk for Biden. I think that's going to be dangerous, like especially for America. Like if that's like their play, America knows what it wants. And if we get another 4 years of Biden, we're not going to be happy.
Well, but see, I think you're right, because now Americans, in 2020, it was an abstract concept of what Biden was trying to do. Mm-hmm. Now they're seeing it full blown. People go to the grocery store, you see higher prices of food. You see higher price for gas, and gas prices are going to go back up again like they do every summer. Then I think I was talking to you this morning or this afternoon, utility prices have gone up for everybody.
Yeah.
Businesses are feeling it. Every ethnic group is saying, wait a minute, where are we going with this? And then they're focusing on like abortion, or they're focusing on this transgender stuff, or this what they're doing with the schools. But
that's starting to backfire them too. Doritos just let go one of their transgender,
because they're seeing the back. It's just like I was talking with a gentleman a day or two ago. We were talking about Disney. A lot of Disney went so far woke, but it impacted the shareholders. And these companies have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize shareholder profits. Mm-hmm. And when you go off on this tangent, you're losing money. So they're starting to see a backlash, and Disney has lost money.
And their lawsuit against Ron DeSantis got dropped too, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Conveniently, but
Well, look at Bud Light. Look at they lost, I think, over $30 billion.
Well, they course corrected, and then I think
it takes time.
But they still made a lot of good plays, especially with like Bud Light. And it's kind of like, I think it's a little bit more in the leadership of Bud Light versus the actual like company itself, because like you're the president, you have more things to be concerned about than, so you hire this person and this person's like, oh, we want to be new, we want to be different, let's do this, let's capture this, unbeknownst to you. And then all of a sudden the only time you recognize something is when your stock is tanking or profits are like dropping. You don't think, I'm gonna call everybody into the shop if there's a dip in profits, and we're normally up here, and then all of a sudden we're down here. What's going on?
But the CEO of Bud Light or Anheuser-Busch didn't. He kind of just went along with it for a while.
A little bit, but
he took too long to recognize. I mean, think about it. You're trying to get
should be more privy to what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You're trying to be diverse. I got that. And you're trying to expand your demographics of who's going to drink Bud Light. But think about it. From a red-blooded American, who drinks Bud Light? Usually blue-collar workers, sports enthusiasts, things like that. It's more of a manly...
But who drinks Bud Light is not necessarily on, say, the company itself, but like the distributors.
No, but you still need to know who you're... Like when you start your company, and I'm going to be helping you market it.
We're not serving Bud Light.
I know we're not serving, but you also got to know is who is your demographic? Who are you trying to reach? And then you want to expand beyond that.
Old retired folks.
The people that the person who was doing the marketing, she was trying to reach this very liberal, progressive. They're not going to drink Bud Light.
Kind of like what we're doing too. Like we want to expand our female market. And like if Facebook is kind of like a litmus of what we're doing, America overall, 44% of women are more prone to owning a firearm, and that's kind of falling into our demographic area. Is like 44% of the women are interested in what we have to say when it comes to our business. But also you're kind of looking at a different way of bringing in more women-friendly apparel and equipment.
Equipment. But they also have to look at it. When I worked for a firearm company or law enforcement.
Don't say who they are.
I can't say who they are, but I mean,
it's on the camera.
Yeah. Okay. But the point is, women buy. Okay, the fastest growing demographic for concealed carry holders is women.
Yeah.
25% or more. It's women and women of color.
Yeah.
Women do not buy firearms the same way men do.
Yeah.
Why do you have a firearm? You buy it for sport because you like firearms.
Yeah.
Women don't do that.
They buy it for protection.
They buy it for protection. And
majority of women. There's a few.
There's a few out there that do it, but for the majority of it, they didn't grow up shooting guns. Now they get to a point, and there's always some out there who were shooting guns when they were kids. But most women buy it for protection. So why not bring in things that they're going to, like when they want concealed carry, they want to put in a purse. When I talked about concealed carry leggings, they're like, wow, that's a good thinking. I wear those all the time.
We are
Not
having
me.
such a good conversation. We're actually over our 30, but we can keep on going.
Yeah, so you've got to, every business needs to find out who your demographics are,
Yeah.
and then you got to expand from that. But when Bud Light did its thing, just like Target, they failed to realize who is your current demographic, who is your loyal purchasers.
I
and they
think
failed
Target
that.
was just trying to be more inclusive, and I don't have an issue with that. It's just how you're promoting it and who you're promoting it to, because a lot of people are holding, like for Target's sake, a lot of people hold their, not every kid is questioning their gender and wants to change their gender. So
Exactly.
in order for them to kind of put that at the top, big mistake. But if there was like a company interior or like internal kind of, hey, we're going to start catering, and if parents are looking for this, then you should know about this. But to like announce it and stuff like that was definitely a mishandling.
No,
because
it was.
there's some people that are, yes, I want my kid to be whoever they want to be, and there's some people that are like, no, my kid's going to be this until they decide on their own.
But that's the whole point with this LGBTQ. Most people could care less. If you're gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever, more power to you.
I don't give a shit.
But when you start, like you got children who are young enough.
Yeah.
I know you got an older daughter who's out of college, but you got young children.
Mm-hmm.
You don't send your kids to be force-fed this stuff in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Let them learn how to read, write, and all the tangible that's getting them a job.
Yeah.
I think Americans are just tired. And then if you disagree with that, then you're labeled as a fascist, or you're anti-democratic, you're racist. That's what people don't like, is when you disagree. If you disagree with this group, they label you as a racist, which is a very charged word. You're a bigot, you're xenophobic, you're misogynist. And that's not the case.
Yeah. So.
And people need to understand that.
All right, John. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and let them know where they can get a hold of us?
You can get a hold of us by going to baldyreports@gmail.com, or you can check us out on all our social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And we're going to keep doing these things. I like to do this every day, but it takes time.
We are in a few weeks.
In a few weeks, we're going to be doing a lot more. We're going to do some videos and stuff, and I'm going to explain a lot of things like the war in Ukraine and some other issues. But we're getting moving, so just got to keep. We do thank your support. I thank everybody who chimed in. And keep sending your questions. I don't want everybody to agree. This is an open forum so we can debate these issues calmly and rationally. So before I end, Joe, tell us what you are doing.
So, All American Gunslingers, you can find us on all things social media, All American Gunslingers, and you can email us at allamericangunslingers@gmail.com. Website's coming out soon. Shop and gun range will be opening up in a few weeks. I don't want to give you like a solid date because we kind of overshot the one that we wanted to go for, but just keep an ear out. We'll let you guys know. Go on to Facebook, and when you go onto Facebook, tell them that you heard us on, and this is why you're going onto Facebook to go. You're going to go to All American Gunslingers page. Say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. That's why I'm kind of hopping up on a page. We would enjoy this, and after I talk to a few people, I'll make sure that this podcast will probably get a little push on our page, so more like-minded people and unlike-minded people can hear what we have to say. So with that, everybody have a great day.
Until next time, next Wednesday. Sorry we had to do it today on Thursday. Things came up yesterday. So till next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Time. Check us out.